Hey guys, today I want to talk to you about attachments within Rainbow Six Siege. It's going to be a slightly different video as to what you've normally seen on YouTube. I see all the time these guides for, these are the best attachments. This is what you should be using in 2022. These attachments will give you 0 recoil. I'm not for that. I'm very much a finding what works for you and not copying others, because whatever sense or field of view or aspect ratio works for one person won't necessarily work for you. So I kind of wanted to create a guide showing what I use, the path that I took to get there. Like, I've been playing this game for 7 years, and my aim and stuff is still, it's nowhere near perfect. But I kind of wanted to make a guide that would kind of show you my process, show you my, my trail of thought on, I'm going to use this attachment, I'm going to use this stock, this barrel, this grip, whatever it would be. I just kind of give you a little insight into how I did it and got comfortable with my aim. And hope that you can kind of reflect that to help you. So I'm going to start off by going through kind of the different attachments, what's in game, what's available, what each one kind of does, and then I'm going to switch over to a comparison. So I'll be showing off the recoil pattern for just barrels side by side, just the grips, and then combinations of the barrels and grips together. And yeah, I hope that I can find something for you to feel comfortable with. I'm not going to tell you what to use. I want you to take what you can from the video and come up with your own results. So let's jump straight into it. So we start off in Rainbow Six with the scopes. As many of you know that have played this game for a while now, each gun was very limited to what kind of scopes they could use. Each operator had different sets. Some would have the reflex, the hollow, the red dot, and then they would have 1, 2 times or stuff like that. But now every single one-time scope has been made available to every operator. And we're still limited to certain operators having a 1.5 only for mid to long range, and then other operators having your 2 times, your 2.5s, your 3s. I hardly ever see people use 3s. I don't know why they're in the game. That's just a personal thing. But the thing you will find with the one-time scopes, these are for all your close combat fights you'll be having. So if you're an entry fragger, if you're someone that likes to play 3 speeds and just run and gun and, just get in close to the enemy, a 1x is what you're going to want to use. These are very much, minimal. They magnify. It's very much the same kind of look as a hipfire would be. You don't get much difference. So these are very good for the close range. You're going to find it hard at mid to long range battles with the recoil taking into effect. But then that is where your scopes, so I'm going to show you Maverick today. Again as well, like all the other guides do, they will go through every single operator and say, I use this on this operator, this is what you should be using. I use this on this operator, this is what you should be using. I'm not going to do that. I am very much a one-trick pony. I will use the same thing on everything. So I'm just going to show you kind of my process with Maverick, and then hope that you can mirror that onto other operators as well. So normally with Maverick, I use the 1.5. This is the only other kind of mid to long range scope available to him. Again, like I said, there's a 2, there's a 2.5, there's a 3. I personally rarely use those. I'll use a 2 sometimes, depending on what operator I use. But you'll mostly find me on a 1.5, or I'll be using the Hollow A. These are my 2 go-to scopes at the moment. Again, no scope really has, as you can see at the bottom right here, no scope has on a 1x has any kind of effect on your recoil pattern, on the vertical, on the horizontal. So this is purely down to personal preference. So moving on from the scopes, you have the barrels. So with Maverick, you have all of the barrels available to you. You've got a suppressor, a flash hider, compensator, muzzle brake, and extended barrel. So suppressors don't really do much for the weapon themselves. If you look at the recoil pattern, it very much stays the same between the both. The only difference really is the sound dampening. It brings the sound of you firing your gun down. You're still heard. You like, don't get me wrong, you can still be heard, but it brings it down ever so slightly. But along with that, you get the reduced damage. So you're going from bog standard 44 damage to a 37 damage per bullet. So when you think about it, if you're hitting chest to the head, it's not going to make much difference. But if you're someone that, you know, hits a lot of body shots, those few points can mean a kill or be killed. You got the flash hider. This will reduce the vertical when you're firing rapidly. This is the attachment I use on every single gun. I honestly, hand on heart, think I can say I don't touch any of the other attachments, and people will scrutinize me, people will, you know, moan at me for that. It's what I'm comfortable with. I've learnt to control the flash hider. I've learnt how it feels on every weapon. It's what I'm comfortable with. I feel like I can control horizontal, but the vertical, there's a real good kick on some guns. So I feel like this flash hider, you know, for me, is a great all-round attachment. Compensator, opposite to the flash hider. Flash hider is vertical, compensator is the horizontal. So if you're comfortable with your recoil control pulling down, but you know your gun does this as you're shooting, you want to be using a compensator. That will stop the sway. So as you're pulling down and controlling it like you normally would, you're not having to, you know, when you're pulling down your mouse, you're not having to do this as you're pulling down. Muzzle brake is the kind of they called it like an all-round one. You won't be spraying with a muzzle brake. This is for your kind of like your tap shots or your burst fires. Yeah, if you're wanting to full auto and hold left click, you're gonna want one of these two. Muzzle brake used to be the go-to when it first released. Used to be quite broken and everyone used it. But no, now it tends to just be the flash hider and compensator. And then finally the extended barrel. I don't know anyone that uses this on many weapons. I think some people use it on Frost. But it basically just improves the damage for distance. So the further away an enemy is, obviously the less damage they take from your bullet, whereas if you have an extended barrel, that damage kind of buff kind of remains the further they are. But again, with a game like Siege, a lot of the fights you get into are close range anyway. So you're not going to kind of need this unless you're, you know, sat right out the back in spawn. So yeah, for me, out of all of these, I heavily sit on a flash hider. I will swear by it. I will go to my grave using this attachment. But for me personally, flash hider is the way to go. Again, as well, on the bottom right of the screen, you can see the damages, fire rates, mobilities, capacities, and then obviously the recoil pattern. So if you have a look at that when you're attaching things to your gun, you can see how easy it will be for kind of like where it goes in terms of vertical and horizontal. And then for the grips, we have the vertical grip and the angled grip. So as you can see as well on the recoil pattern, your vertical grip helps with the vertical. So if you're using a vertical grip, there's going to be less kick upwards as you're shooting, and it'll be easier to pull down. You won't have to fucking yank your mouse down. You'll just be able to, you know, control it pretty easily. And then an angled grip helps the speed between your hip fire and your ADS. So again, angled grip would be good for your entries, your fast-paced plays where you're just wanting to get in and run and gun. The angled grip is what you're going to want because you're going to want to get that scope up as quick as possible. Whereas the vertical grip is a little bit slower. It's not much slower, but you get a lot more control. So again, with Maverick, I tend to use the vertical grip. And then the underbarrel is the laser. This is a very much hit and miss attachment. A lot of people do like using it, a lot of people don't. The ones that don't like using it always have the excuse that it gives your position away. Because if an enemy comes around a corner and they see a red dot holding the door, they're not going to peek it. But then also, you can fight that argument with, okay, they see that red dot, they know you're in the other room, but they don't know exactly where. So you still have the drop on them, but the laser helps with hip fire. So if you're going into a room, you're going to be ADS'd and you're going to be checking corners with your scope up. So a laser isn't really going to be beneficial to you. Again, it's people that entry, people that run in, they want that kind of split second of when you start firing to ADS. Those first few bullets that come out the gun will be before you're ADS'd. So this laser will help them kind of travel on target a bit better. But yeah, so this is kind of the setup I use and kind of the reason why. Scope 1.5 is a good kind of medium range. So it's good for close combat, it's good for long. Bit of just a balanced scope, to be fair. Flash hider to help me with the vertical recoil. I'm old. My wrists can't, you know, pull down like all these pros do. So I need as much help as I can in terms of that vertical. And then the vertical grip again to decrease that recoil coming down. So yeah, this is the setup I use. We're going to head into the shooting range, which is a new feature on Siege. This is currently live on the test server, so I do suggest if you have access to the test server, go on and try it. It is extremely fun. It's a great addition to the game, and I feel like it's going to come in handy for a lot of people. If you don't have access to the test server, it will be going live in the next season, so you don't have long to wait until you can try it. But yeah, let's head in and have a look at the shooting range. The main two here to look at is the flash hider and the compensator. The other three are quite similar in terms of recoil patterns. But here you'll see with the flash hider, the bullet spread is a lot tighter because the vertical recoil is being controlled. And the compensator, the line going up is a lot straighter because the horizontal sway is being affected by that. hope this has been helpful. I hope it's given you some insight into what I do, what I play, why I play it, and I hope that you can implement this into your gameplay, into your kind of research, into finding your preferred method and attachments. Again, I can't stress enough, just because someone say they play on a certain field of view, aspect ratio, sensitivity, if you change to the same stuff, you're not going to play like they do. Honestly, find what's comfortable for you. We now have this shooting range. You can sit in there for however long you want and just change bits, change your recoil, your sensitivities, change your aspect ratios, change your field of views, just change everything to do with your settings and all that until you feel comfortable. But yeah, stick to what you want. Don't go around copying others, because honestly, the more you do it, the further you're going to get from feeling comfortable. I know this from experience. I've played long enough to know that once you find something, just stick with it, because you will only improve when you train yourself on that particular thing. But yeah, I hope this information's helped. It might not have. You might not have even got this far in the video. If you have, I appreciate it. I really do. If there's anything you'd like to see in the future, guide-wise, that would be the same style. It's what I do. I want to suggest the method to you rather than just suggesting the certain thing. If there's anything else within Siege you'd like to see in that style, drop it down in the comments below. Let me know. And yeah, like the video if you haven't already. Drop a sub if you're not already subbed. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.